The question was not fully asked of the witness. The Liberals are shutting me down again, and now the chair is shutting me down again.
Welcome back to Northern Perspective, everyone. I'm Cypher.
And I'm Fox. Liberals. I guess they don't know Larry Brock as well as we do. He's not just going to walk away from the pursuit of justice.
He's also not going to let a committee agenda get in the way either. Let's take a look.
Commissioner, you'll agree with me that there are certain basic legal tenets in criminal law. Number one, that ignorance of the law is no excuse. Every Canadian is not above the law, and that the criminal code applies to all Canadians, including members of Parliament and the Prime Minister himself. Is that correct?
I agree.
Notwithstanding that no sitting Prime Minister has ever been charged criminally and or convicted of a criminal offense in the history of the country.
Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, I just want to point out, this committee is the Standing Committee on Official Languages. And the commissioner of the RCMP has been called to testify and answer questions regarding bilingualism within the RCMP. Now, you may recognize this individual because he was the same individual that appeared before the Ethics Committee last week when they were supposed to question this guy on the SNC LAVALIN issue, right? Well, they didn't get to do that. They didn't get to do that because the Liberals and the NDP shut it down. So, evidently, Mr. Brock said, well, screw that. I'm going to go to the Standing Committee on Official Languages and ask my questions there. So, he's starting to ask those questions and everyone's like, wait.
Well, and the great thing about this is Brock isn't even one of like the core committee members on this committee. So he was swapped in.
Oh, yeah. He's just like, I'd like to take your spot, whichever Conservative he replaced. And they said, sure. Here you go, Brock. And he had to have known this was going to happen. But here's the thing. He's Larry Brock.
Stop the rock, can't stop the rock, can't stop the rock.
Point of order, Mr. Chair. Mr. Sanson first, and then Madame Kayabaga. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to say very directly that the question being asked are not related in any way to the mandate given to this committee meeting today. And I say that the committee today, it deals with official languages, and it is holding a meeting on the compliance of the RCMP with the Official Languages Act. So this type of question and the direction of the questioning does not fall under the mandate of today's meeting. So I think this question is out of order. Thank you, Mr. Sanson, Madame Kayabaga, and then Mr. Godin. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think that my colleague just explained my thoughts very well. We're here discussing the files that deal with our committee. And if our colleague on the other side wishes to participate in that discussion, he is more than welcome to. But we have just an hour with the commissioner today, and we would like to stick to the issue at hand. Thank you. Madame Kayabaga, Mr. Godin. Mr. Chair, I appreciate the comments by my colleagues. Perhaps you've allowed all parliamentarians to give an introduction, and my colleague was speaking, but I hadn't heard a question yet, so they can't judge a question that hasn't been asked yet. I think we should give time to our colleague, and then we can deem whether his question is relevant or not. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
So without the name placards put up by Parleview, for whatever reason, they didn't appear on this video, but you can already tell which are the Liberals and who's the Conservative out of those three right there.
Right. And, okay, so, ladies and gentlemen, being completely objective here, technically, the Liberals have a point. Okay. Technically, they do.
Do you think that's going to stop Larry Brock?
Well, nothing's going to stop the Brock. But They technically do have a point, and this point of order does have some merit. I'm not going to be surprised if, this kind of shuts down that line of questioning. However, it was also completely improper for the Liberals to shut down that committee meeting that was scheduled. The notice was sent, and that meeting should have continued last week with the questioning of the RCMP commissioner and his sergeant that was with him on their investigation into SNC LAVALIN. That should have absolutely happened. So if the Liberals want to fight like that, well, what do you think the Conservatives are going to do? Sit back? Do nothing?
Yeah, you got to fight fire with fire.
Let's see what happens.
I will weigh in right away. I did not hear anything about official languages, RCMP. I heard criminal and our Prime Minister of Canada. So, Mr. Brock, if you have questions that deal with the subject of the day, then you are welcome to ask them. But if you are raising something that has nothing to do with today's study, then I will stop you. Well, with all due respect, Mr. Chair, you cannot judge my colleague's intention until he has finished his comments. Now, he spoke only about the Prime Minister or the RCMP. Well, that does not prevent him from making a comments in this committee. This is not a presentation, it's a question. He was going to ask a question in his 5 minutes, and I stopped the clock for your information, Mr. Brock, and he started that talking about criminal law and the Prime Minister of Canada. So, Mr. Brock, I will give you a few seconds to see in the direction your question is going in, but yes, go ahead.
Any bets, anyone? Any bets how long this lasts?
I bet he's just going to keep going.
Oh.
Just keep going and going over top of them.
I
Go.
hope he does.
Go, go, go.
I hope he does.
To the comments of my colleague, Monsieur Gaudin, it would be common courtesy from the Liberal bench to allow a question to be framed before there is any opposition. And quite frankly, Chair, I don't think I have to be confined by a time limit by the chair in terms of how I want to frame the question. So the question is relevant to the study at hand, and I will explain the relevancy if I'm permitted the courtesy, professional courtesy of asking the question.
Ladies and gentlemen, that is the professional way of telling somebody to please go take a hike. That's as well as you could have put it. Basically saying, screw off. I may take 4.5 minutes to ask my question, and I may cover all the ground that I want to, but the end result is going to be a question that's pertinent to the study. How about you just sit back, be quiet, and let me ask my question? Good on you, Brock.
Un instant, Monsieur Brock. Allez-y, Monsieur Iacono.
One moment, please, Mr. Brock. Mr. Iacono.
Courtesy, I think, first of all, the courtesy should be attributed to the witnesses that are here today. And they've come here because the parties across and the government party want to question the commissioner based on everything that deals with languages. Absolutely. So if we're going to talk about courtesy, don't preach courtesy the way you want it to be preached. Preach it the way it is. And I think the utter respect should be to our witnesses who are here. The commissioner has an important job to do. We have all an important job to do. Your questions do not pertain to languages. Those questions can be asked in another committee that takes care of those matters. And, excuse me?
Just a second, Mr.
President?
Mr. Brock, you're speaking about courtesy. Can you retract what you just said to this colleague, please?
I'll retract it, but I wish an opportunity of speaking again.
Yes,
Chair.
there's people before you and after you, and I respect the order.
We didn't get to hear what he said, but we could guess.
I'm hoping that he said something to the effect of, if you guys didn't shut it down, relating to the committee that literally was shut down before anybody even got to speak. The Liberals and the NDP banded together to get the RCMP commissioner out of there.
Well, and that's the part that's infuriating about that statement. Like the absolute gall of that guy to sit there and say, well, if you can ask these questions in another committee. Well, we can't, can we? Because you guys are so corrupt that you won't even let those questions happen. So now you got to deal with me in this committee. Like, This is the presence of Brock, and he's, these guys aren't going to bully him.
No, and notice it's all Liberals jumping in to say something. I wonder why.
Iacono, vous avez le plancher.
Mr. Iacono, you have the floor.
Until the member across apologizes to the whole committee, to the witnesses, and in particular to me for the word he has said.
Il vient juste de retirer ce qu'il vient de dire.
He just withdrew what he said.
Mais un instant.
One moment, please. What Mr. Iacono said is that he's asking for Mr. Brock to apologize and to withdraw what he said to our colleague. So, Mr. Brock, do you accept to withdraw your comments and ask a question of the witness?
Vous avez dit par rapport.
For the comment that you made to Mr. Iacono.
I withdraw the comment. I did.
I just made the separation with the two. Retracting a comment is not what Mr. Iacono is asking. He's asking to apologize to the.
I apologize to the committee.
Thank you.
I apologize to the witness.
Thank you.
But I still have more to say with respect to the original objection. Thank you.
Monsieur le Président, point d'ordre.
Mr. Chair, point of order. Yes, I will respect the order. Mr. Iacono, Mr. Dalton, after Mr. Brock, and then Mr. Gaudin. Mr. Dalton, you have the floor.
Merci.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And I am very disappointed by the immediate reaction to my colleague. He said 2 sentences and immediately it was just an explosion. I think that a bit of courtesy, it goes both ways. We need to listen so that he can frame his question. We should really have waited and not jump to the chair, and then we should give him some space to speak. Thank you, Mr. Dalton. Mr. Brock, and then Mr. Gaudin.
Thank you, Chair. So my friend opposite, Mr.
Point d'ordre, Monsieur le Président.
Point of order, Mr. Chair. The comment, I'm sorry, but I wanted to make a point of order, but you told me to wait. I'm sorry, I'm talking about the comments that... point of order.
This is a gong show.
Yeah.
This is an utter gong show. Larry Brock spoke for approximately a total of 30 seconds. And the Liberals are just in panic mode.
Well, they're probably in panic mode beforehand, like before he even opened his mouth, because he's not supposed to be there, right? They swapped out one of the other Conservative members. I'm not sure who it was, but they swapped somebody else out so that he could be there in a committee that he doesn't quote unquote belong in.
Well, he doesn't typically visit. It's the party right to swap out members of their committee of the committee at their leisure, but I doubt there's many meetings of the committee, the Standing Committee on Official Languages, that Brock attends. This is probably his first one. So, yeah, I agree. When he walked in the door, or when they saw that he was going to be on the ledger, they're probably like, what's going on? What's going on? And then he started asking his questions. They're like, oh, crap.
I wonder if they're going to adjourn this committee too.
Well, they're not even letting him speak. Like they're not even letting him speak to the objection.
No, but the only way that they are going to prevent Larry Brock from finishing his piece is if they shut down this committee too.
Wouldn't that be great?
Let's watch.
You're making a point of order as well? Okay. We'll hear from Mr. Iacono first. I thought these were comments about the point of order. So you want to make a point of order as well? Okay, Mr. Brock, continue.
I have the floor.
Monsieur le Président, j'étais en train de...
Mr. Chair, I was in the middle of speaking, and the man across the way jumped in, so I am asking for an apology, and also an apology to me and to the witnesses as well. And I think that I am asking for apology to me because... one moment, please.
Feelings. My goodness. Feelings. Brock already apologized to the committee. You got your apology. It's done. It's over with. And now you want a personal apology? What, you want some roses too? Relax. Get over with. And by the way, Brock had the floor. You're not supposed to be speaking. That's why you saw Brock put up his hand like, hello? Chair, I had the floor. And then this guy just starts speaking.
They are terrified of what he's going to say.
They are so scared. And they should be.
One moment, everyone. One moment. One moment. Mr. Iacono, I think that Mr. Brock has already done that in good faith, and he has already apologized to his credit. I think we are talking about a point of order, the first point of order that is on the floor, given the content about the question Mr. Brock wanted to raise. But now you said that you had a point of order. Mr. Brock, are you speaking to the point of order or the first point of order?
Mr. Chair.
Allez-y.
The chair gave me the floor. Before I uttered 2 words, I was interrupted by Mr. Iacona on another point of order. Don't know what that point of order was, but I had the floor. So if I have the floor, I'd like to continue, Chair. Yeah. And my thoughts are this. Mr. Iacona spoke about professional courtesy. And I wanted to comment on that word, professional courtesy, because I think it's important for all of us to reflect on what has happened literally over the last week. Last Monday, this commissioner was scheduled to testify not one, but at 2 committees, here at Official Languages and also at Ethics. He chose to attend at Ethics because this is a pressing issue. It's a pressing issue to all Canadians as to why it took as long as it did for the RCMP to come to the conclusion that the investigation into criminality with respect to the Prime Minister's handling of the SNC affair would not result in criminal charges.
This is brilliant. I just realized what's happening, everybody.
Tell me, because I have no idea.
I think Brock knew this was going to happen. He had to have known this was going to happen. And he had to have known that the Liberals are going to raise an objection. Now, the great thing is that he also knew that he would be able to speak to that objection. And while he was speaking to that objection, he knew that was going to be recorded and televised.
So he was pulling a Greg Fergus.
He was pulling a Greg Fergus. And
yeah.
He's able to say this with the commissioner of the RCMP sitting right there.
Yeah, Liberals don't like it when you use their own medicine against them.
Well, here's the thing. The way I'm reading this, could be wrong, but the way I'm reading this is that he gets to embarrass the Liberals on television. He knows he's going to be able to grab this and share it on his own account, and he knows that there's channels like ours that are going to be covering this. So he gets to make basically his argument in his objection. And he has no time limit. The chair may try and shut him down, but this is not included in his 5-minute time limit. So he's actually poaching a lot more time here. Number 2, he gets to put public heat on the RCMP because this is televised. And they have a conservative that is speaking what the RCMP should be doing, what Canadians expect them to do. So this is also a way of putting public heat on the RCMP. So this is actually a brilliant maneuver.
This Mr. Brock is a mastermind of the highest order.
Let's continue.
He was expected to...
Point of order, Mr. Chair.
Floor, Mr. Iacona.
Point of order, because the Liberals just realized what I did.
And I have the floor, Mr. Sampson.
Non, mais un instant, Monsieur Brock. Monsieur,
Inaudible.
Ton nom, mon nom de famille.
Ben, c'est ça.
Inaudible.
Monsieur Brock,
Mr. Brock, I'm listening to your explanation. I'm going to get back to it. I'm going to go through these point of orders in the order they were raised. I'm not convinced that you are making a point of order here that is related to what we're talking about. The committee has not made a decision on what is going on elsewhere in another year and another time. Mr. Godin, you have the floor. Mr. Chair, I would like to present my apologies to the commissioner here because this chaos over here that was provoked by the Liberals, they do not want us to have a discussion with you. I find it unacceptable. When Mr. Iacono speaks of professional courtesy, I think that he should be courteous enough and to appreciate my colleagues' apologies and to continue doing our meeting. Everything was going swimmingly up to date, and now, you know, your point of order, Mr. Godin, I would just like to give the floor back to Mr. Brock so that we can move forward and to ask my colleagues opposite to stop hindering the work of the committee. I do not think that the member has the right to answer on behalf of the commissioner. He just said something that I have qualms with. He said that the commissioner chose last week to go to the ethics committee instead of coming to our committee because, according to the commissioner, it was a more urgent matter. I would like to hear this from the commissioner. I would like to hear the commissioner say that the reason that he refused this invitation and that official languages compliance is less important for him than what the member alleges. Mr. Iacono, I'll come back to Mr. Brock afterwards. Yes, it's okay. Inaudible. Ms. Goodridge.
Go ahead.
Thank you. So I very much appreciate the fact that this has devolved into chaos because the Liberals don't want to hear what Mr. Brock is trying to ask and how he is framing his questions. And I think it's very unfortunate that we have devolved into a space where we're just having points of order on points of order. But I will remind you, Mr. Chair, that you cannot actually point of order a point of order. And there can be conversation on a point of order, and then you can rule on it, or you can set it aside. But very clearly in the House of Commons procedures and practices, what this has devolved to is not how I've seen this committee operate up to this point in time. And I would request very respectfully that we get back to the conversation at hand so that we can ask questions, because I have questions. I know other colleagues have questions. This is a very important topic on bilingualism in the RCMP. And frankly, I did not hear Mr. Brock in any way, shape, or form say that somehow official languages was less important than ethics. He just keeps getting interrupted before he can even get to his point. Thank you.
Boom.
Amazing. There are 4 conservatives on that committee, including Larry Brock, and they are just tag teaming it and going after the Liberals. It's awesome.
Absolutely. You know, the Liberals are scared and they're breaking their own rules, and the Conservatives are calling them out on it.
As they should.
And I love, she holds up this, you know, War and Peace type of book with all of the rules of committee in there and says, no, you can't do this. And this is ridiculous. This is absolute chaos. And whenever Brock tries to say something, you guys are so scared of what he has to say, you keep interrupting him all the time with points of order. It makes you wonder, what are they hiding?
Merci, Madame Goodrich.
Thank you, Ms. Goodridge. We're not used in the Official Languages Committee to have this stream of points of order. I love this committee because it's not very often politicized. Mr. Brock, you've listened to everyone talk about your intervention. I'm going to let you have the floor, but I will say, if you're not on topic, if you want to ask questions related to today's study, I'll let you have the floor.
With respect, I wanted to provide a response to the number of interventions from the Liberals objecting to my presence and how I framed a question, which wasn't even framed because I didn't have the opportunity to frame it. And somehow I'm being denied the opportunity. And I wanted to provide context, and I was objected to at that last occasion that I tried to provide context. We talked about professional courtesy. The RCMP commissioner attended last Monday at Ethics, was prepared to comment on the SNC investigation. And the Liberals, together with the NDP, before we even heard the statement of the RCMP commissioner, shamefully shut down the committee. So we talk about professional courtesy, Chair. It goes both ways.
If I can open just a bracket before you continue, your time is running, okay? Right?
My time is
No,
running.
I mean, I'm putting back the clock.
Okay. So Brock got out what he wanted to get out. Slapped him in the face with their own adjournment last week. I give him 15 seconds.
So, Commissioner, going back to the original line of questioning, although no prime minister in the history of this country has ever been charged and or convicted of a criminal offense, if your service had reasonable and probable grounds to believe a criminal offense had been committed, such as obstruction of justice, again...
20 seconds. 20 seconds. Still not done asking his question.
...the opportunity of framing a question, now for the second time, by the Liberals.
Mr. Brock, forget the Liberals or forget the NDP or the Bloc or whatever. For now, I mean, the point of order is clear. And you know exactly what was the point of order and why you're here today, or why this committee is sitting today in front of those witnesses is to ask them questions concerning the present study. That's not where you're going at all. Okay? So I tend to agree with what I'm hearing in terms of point of orders. You're not...
Chair, point of order. Again, you are denying me my privileges in terms of asking a full question. The question was not fully asked of the witness. The Liberals are shutting me down again, and now the chair is shutting me down again. Is that what you're saying, Chair?
Monsieur Brock, en toute politesse, si vous pensez que je suis en train de faire...
Mr. Brock, if you really believe that I'm doing this as my role as chair, I cannot prevent you from saying that, but it's not at all my intention here. I respect the points of order, and I accept what I've heard as a point of order with regard to the right to ask questions on the topic at hand. That is not what you're doing. I let you speak in an attempt to convince me, which is what you're doing, but you haven't convinced me.
I have to be allowed to ask the question before I can convince anybody of the relevancy by which I'm asking the question. And I'm repeatedly being denied by the Liberal bench and now the chair.
C'est à vous, Monsieur Brock, de penser ça. Je vous dis, vous avez tort.
It's up to you if you believe that, but you are wrong to say that I am not able to do anything.
Par rapport à l'étude d'aujourd'hui, je vous le permets.
I would allow you to ask a question about today's study.
Pardon un instant. Point à l'ordre du jour. Point à l'ordre, pardon.
Point of order. Thank you, Chair. I would like to go back to the topic at hand. Our Bloc Québécois colleague asked for this study. This is his study. These are his guests and witnesses. We are in the Official Languages Committee. If we want to have an ethics discussion, we can take it to ethics. But today is the first time that we're meeting on this topic. We're talking about bilingualism within the RCMP, and we want to do this. We don't want to waste our witnesses' time. We have questions, Chair, that we want to ask them, and we don't want to lose them before we have the chance to ask those questions.
Oh, really?
Wow. We don't want to waste his time, and we want to make sure that we ask those questions before we don't have the chance. Maybe you guys should have afforded the Conservatives the same chance last week.
Yeah, maybe.
I move to adjourn the meeting.
So you're officially moving to adjourn the meeting today?
Yes, I move to adjourn the meeting.
God, these guys are such hypocrites.
Wow.
All of them. All of them.
Wow.
Our communities want us to ask these questions. They're in the various programs with students, and they are wondering how they can get into the RCMP. So we would like to get back to our study. Mr. Beaulieu introduced this and brought it forward. We want to finish the study today. Thank you, thank you, member. And then next to Mr. Beaulieu. Okay, before invalidating this, maybe he will bring the issue of official languages, and I think that doing this would that what we're doing now is harming the process. I would like to extend this 10 or 15-minute period because or else things will happen.
So that was
Mario Beaulieu. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, I'm butchering that, but
he's a member of the Bloc, And it sounds like in this case, the Bloc agrees with Brock. So it looks like they're also interested. You know, SNC Lavalin was a crooked organization in their own province. So no doubt they'd be interested.
There are witnesses waiting outside the room now for the second hour. They're there for the second hour. Mr. Godet, I'm listening to you. You have the floor. I have two things to say. In response to my colleague, I understand that there are witnesses outside the room, but the filibustering that the Liberals are doing has now hindered our work, and we need to proceed. We need to move forward. If there hadn't been any filibustering, we would have gone to another witness, and the Liberals would have the floor. So, Mr. Chair, what I would like to ask you is to allow my colleague to ask his question, and then you can deem whether you can say if it's relevant or not, and then you can remove his right to ask a question. But I think it's important that all parliamentarians are able to speak. The least you can do, Chair, is to allow him to ask the question. He is here. He is not a regular member of this committee. He is talking about past experience, and I think it is perfectly legitimate to allow him to speak so that he can ask his question with an interrogation mark at the end of it. Thank you, Chair.
Oh, did you see his face?
Wow. Wow, the chair does not look too happy.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my God.
Having your own tactics played back against you.
I know this episode's going long, but holy this is important, everybody.
And I know we're laughing like a couple of hyenas over here, but like we're just sitting here in absolute shock.
Yeah, it's not laughter out of the fact that it's funny. We are just so taken aback by this. I've never seen this happen in committee.
No, like we heard Brock was in this committee today and we knew something was going to go down, but we had no idea it was going to be this good.
Yeah. And this is important. This is the level at which... So the Liberals are literally filibustering their own topic that they wanted because they're trying to prevent Brock from speaking. For those that don't know what a filibuster is essentially a long, drawn-out, pointless speech in order to waste time. That's the whole intent of it. And often it is used to drag out debate, because there's no time limit on debate. There's no time limits on points of order. And it sounds like they're just trying to drag this out as long as possible. And, it may lead to, the witness's time is expired. That's probably what this is going to lead to.
Well, and I think at the back of their minds, they know that if they do want to continue with legitimate committee business that this specific committee is for, they need to let Brock talk or they're not going to have any time.
But I think they're scared to death that Brock is going to finish his question and he's going to get an answer from the commissioner.
The only other option is to cancel committee. What will they do?
Point of order. I asked the clerk to read the question. He asked the question. He asked it. Look at the question. It says, with regard to the commissioner, ... do you agree? If you read the last 15 words that my colleague mentioned, the question has been asked. I just wanted to repeat that to see if I was correct.
This is something else. So they don't even want Brock to read the question. Remember I said this was televised? And Brock knows this was televised. The Liberals know it's televised too. They don't want him to say the words of the question. That's wow. This is something else, folks. This is your Liberal government.
Mr. Sanson, I understand, but I'm going to leave Mr. Brock the floor. Ms. Clerk, you want that the clerk read the question or the motion? The question. He asked a question. My colleague opposite said that we did not give him the opportunity to ask his question. He asked his question. The question has nothing to do with official languages. Listen to the question. We don't have the question. We do not have that information at this hand. It will come later with transcription. I would just add something. Mr. Brock has the floor.
Thank you, Chair, again. I have questions related to official languages.
If I understand correctly, what Daryl Sampson was saying was that when Brock did his intro, and I can't even remember off the top of my head what he said, but it was something about the Prime Minister. Is that correct? I believe is how Brock phrased it. And Sampson is trying to say that's his question no more talking, he's done, he's already had his question.
But that's not even an argument, because you have a 5-minute time slot to ask as many questions as you want. So he asked his first question, a response was given. No point of order, no objection was made. Brock then started to ask his second question. That's when all the point of orders were raised. So Sampson's trying to justify that this question has nothing to do with the study based on the first question that Brock asked. Now, Brock has a very good point. You can lay any context that you want. It's your questions. And the thing is the argument even about, oh, well, you know, the questions have nothing to do with this and you're wasting everybody's time. Well, then it's just wasting Brock's time, because he has 5 minutes. Why don't you let him ask his questions, which we know why they don't want him to do that, and then move on to the other MPs. But this is becoming a question of privilege, parliamentary privilege. And at some point, Brock may actually raise this in the House.
I hope he does. I hope he does, because the Liberals and the NDP are shutting down the official opposition's ability to do their work.
And that's why Brock said, you are denying me my privilege of asking the question. That's why the chair got so defensive, saying, no, I'm not doing that.
Because that's a very, very serious accusation.
It is. It's a very serious accusation. You're literally preventing somebody in the government for doing what they were elected to do, and that is a big no-no. That could be raised on the floor of the House of Commons, just like it was for foreign interference with Michael Chong and Aaron O'Toole. So this is important, folks.
But no member of this committee, particularly from the Liberals and the NDP, can suggest how I have to frame my questions, or whether or not I can ask questions in sequential order. So there is a connection by which I'm trying to have the opportunity of questioning the RCMP commissioner, because the SNC Corporation, a Quebec-based corporation, is very much concerned about official languages. If you recall, Chair, not too long ago, the CEO of SNC LAVALIN canceled a Montreal speech after the Canadian boss at the time refused to speak in the French language.
Oh, Brock.
Oh my goodness, it's not even Brock, it's Dalton beside him. He knows exactly what Brock is doing.
Oh, he knows. He knows. If you... we're going to play that back. Look at Dalton. He is trying so hard not to smirk because he knows exactly...
and like, we're not laughing because we think this is funny. Well, maybe a little, but like, we're just sitting here open-mouthed, shocked at what is happening in this official languages committee.
And what would seem probably one of those benign subjects and committees in all of Parliament, and there's this stuff going on. And Brock talking about SNC Lavalin, like, oh, well, they're very concerned about two languages.
That was beautiful.
Wow.
So you acknowledge that, and I have a right to question the commissioner with respect to the corporation.
Okay, absolument. Monsieur Iacono?
Écoutez.
Listen, we're in an official languages committee. This subject today is languages, bilingualism. It has nothing to do with criminal accusations. And I don't know where the link is between the languages and criminal charges. I do not understand. If we're going to debate languages and bilingualism, let's keep it at that. If we're going to debate criminal charges, I don't think that we're in the right committee to do so. Thank you. Can we just please clarify this? Yes, before giving Ms. Goodwitz the floor, we have to make a decision. There are witnesses for the second hour. We invited them. Ms. Goodrich, I'll come back to you.
Je vais revenir à vous, Madame Goodrich. Juste un instant.
Allez-y, monsieur.
Maybe we could go to 1:30, and nothing's preventing us from extending the committee meeting by 15 minutes. And then we could allow him to weigh in. And, well, just a moment, Mr. Beaulieu, concerning 1:30, but we started at 1:05 or 11:05. Sorry, I don't want to focus on Mr. Brock or the way he asked his question, but I would like us to decide what we're doing with the next hour as a committee. Mr. Gaudin, please go ahead. Mr. Chair. Yes, you mentioned that we invited the witnesses to appear starting at noon. We should have finished, but unfortunately the Liberal obstruction has meant that we are in this situation. If there's a call for a vote in the House of Commons, unfortunately the witness would have been invited and they would have wasted their time. It's unfortunate for them. And it's not on us on this side of the table for the Conservatives and the Bloc Québécois. So, Mr. Chair, I would not want us to focus on the fact that the situation means that we can't ask questions to the Commissioner, who was kind enough to join us today. I think we should give the floor to my colleague so that he can finish his question and we can move on to other questions on the same subject before we go to other witnesses. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ms. Goodridge, on that point, I'll give you the floor on the point. What did you have to say? Yes, thank you. I raised a point of order before Mr. Iacono spoke. So in this meeting, I was ignored a couple of times in my points of order. So I would like to make a point. Where in the book on procedure are the points of order by my Liberal colleagues? I can't find them. So I think if they don't have a page that they can quote, can we please...
Please.
Yeah, okay, but again, I'm still in the bracket that we had. As a committee, we need to make a decision concerning the fact that the hour is gone, is already behind us, and the second hour was, we're supposed to have other witnesses. So that's, okay, s'il vous plaît, sinon, s'il faut que je prenne une décision, je vais la prendre.
So if I have to make a decision, I will, but I'm asking the committee to, inaudible for the interpreter. We had 5 minutes. 5 minutes to Mr. Brock and 5 minutes to the Liberals, and we don't have anything? Well, there's no more time. Well, please help me make a decision. If not, I will make it myself. Mr. Chair, I move that we do one last round of questioning, wrapping up with Mr. Brock, giving the speaking time to the Liberals and to the Bloc Québécois and to the NDP. And then after that, we close the discussion with the Commissioner, and then we move on to our next witnesses. That is my proposal. So in practical terms, that means about 12 minutes from when we start, with the time remaining for Mr. Brock. So, and then no obstruction from the other side. Thank you for your comment, Mr. Gaudin. Comments on this point? I would really like us to make a decision. Is there consent for us to continue? I don't see anyone opposed. So, Mr. Brock, you have about 2 minutes. You have the floor.
Remaining? 2 minutes. With all due respect, Chair, I was cut off within 30 seconds of my 5-minute round. So have I lost 2.5 minutes?
I stopped the clock, I put it back, I indicated to you that I was putting back the clock, and then it came back to others, I stopped it back. I mean, plus or minus, you have 2.5 minutes
Thank you.
That's gone.
So again, Commissioner, I apologize for what has transpired, not only last Monday, but clearly what's happening today. Again, if the service had reasonable and probable grounds to believe our Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, committed a criminal offense, you would charge accordingly, correct?
So, ça c'est une question, Mr. Brock.
That is a question, Mr. Brock.
Follow-up question was going to be how many fully bilingual RCMP officers...
Okay, Mr. Brock, sorry, but that was a question. You agree with me? That was a question.
That was a question.
Okay. You agree with me? You just asked the Commissioner a question?
I repeated the same question that was put to the Commissioner before the interruptions.
So this is clearly a question, right?
I was repeating the same question.
Yeah, I agree. We're saying the same thing.
Right.
Okay, but that is not related to the present study.
Well, then I have a related question, Chair.
But it was not one.
I repeated the same question that the Liberals interfered with, Chair. So
Wait.
whether you allow the commissioner to
Monsieur Brock,
respond or not.
Mr. Brock, désolé.
Mr. Brock, I'm sorry. One moment, please. In good faith, I let you go. You heard the reticence about the questions that you asked, and you asked a question clearly. We heard you clearly, and it had nothing to do with that was the subject of your first point of order. It had no relation to the subject of the meeting today. Do you wish to ask a question to the witness that deals with this study? I am asking you for the same courtesy that you are asking from the Liberals. Could you please tell us whether you have a question concerning the current study for the witness? If not, then you have colleagues that could ask questions.
Allez-y.
Commissioner, how many fully bilingual officers were a part of the investigative team on the SNC scandal?
I don't have, Mr. Chair, I don't have the exact number. The lead investigator who was here last Monday is bilingual, but more than happy to circle back.
What's that person's name?
Staff Sergeant Frédéric Pincence, Pincence.
Was he the lead investigator?
I believe he was the lead investigator on the file.
Okay. How many other members of his team?
I'd have to get back to you as to how many people were actually assigned to that file as it grew. So.
Okay. And was he specifically assigned to speak to French-speaking witnesses only?
Like I said, I'd have to circle back because the whole speed flow direction of the investigation,
Okay.
it was dictated by the lead investigator. So.
All right. Commissioner, I understand only 3 witnesses were interviewed over the course of 4 years by the fully bilingual lead investigator. Is that correct?
This is brilliant. This is brilliant. The way he is doing this. Wow.
Man, remind me not to get on Brock's bad side.
Wow. This is so amazing.
He's a genius.
Because he's literally using the committee topic to extract information and get the commissioner to answer. He's just tying it to the bilingual facade. This is next level, folks. Be glad that Larry Brock is on our side. No doubt this was not decided by Brock in isolation. This is part of the plan, everybody. Wow. This is cerebral. I don't know if any of you are like as amazed and engrossed in this as we are, but like I know this video is going long, but we're going to post it as is because
this is wild.
This is wild stuff. This is like the stuff you see out of a movie when it comes to the climax.
Well, again, Mr. Chair, I'm not aware of how many bilingual investigators were assigned to it, so I can't say how many interviews took place with the bilingual investigators.
Okay, well,
Merci, Monsieur Commissaire.
Thank you, Mr. Commissioner.
Okay, so, ladies and gentlemen.
What a wild ride.
That was the end. That was the end. So the majority of that time that was meant for questions was actually taken up by the filibuster by the Liberals.
Yeah, they filibustered themselves.
So, Brock got a few answers. But that was just something else. Something else. Because they couldn't shut down their own committee, because if they adjourned the meeting, that would have been their own way out, just so you know. They would have had to adjourn the meeting. And if so, then they would have lost the opportunity to talk to their second witness as well. So they couldn't adjourn the meeting.
And this was the perfect meeting to do it in because they couldn't adjourn it.
Correct. So the Conservatives saw the docket. They saw what was on the agenda, saw who was going to speak, and saw when they were going to speak. And they said, this is what we're going to do. And although it didn't go as smooth as they probably would have liked, I think they got their message across. And the message is that we're going to expose everything that you're doing. And we're going to do it so it's televised and so that Canadians can see this. Ladies and gentlemen, I cannot stress how important this committee meeting is, because it's a illustration in real time. This happened today, October 30th, 2023. of how the Liberals are trying to shut down the opposition from asking anything. They're trying to prevent the opposition from executing their parliamentary right. And the great thing is the Conservatives are just smiling and saying, no problem, we're going to figure out a way around you. Now, the only question is I wonder what other unscheduled appearances that Mr. Brock is going to be making at committee this week.
We'll just have to wait and see.